The Bible is considered one of the most important religious and historical documents, consisting of a series of stories told throughout time. Stories that have been distorted from its original meanings over centuries. The Bible has often been used for political gain or interpreted by religious leaders to influence. To influence what, you wonder? Influence behaviors, to influence decisions, and even influence the human mind. But here at Shifting Religious Concepts, our message is simple. Seek the deeper meanings that the stories of the Bible were always meant to tell. Read, interpret, and understand the Bible and its contents as the great storytellers of the past intended it. Now is the time to capture the depth of not only who, but what God truly is. Now is the time to shift from the ideas of identifying yourselves as sheep, but as powerful, living, thriving gods yourself. Shift into the power of not discovering, but uncovering what God created you to be. Right here with SRC, as we began to unpack the secret knowledge that was intended to be shared with everyone.
Good morning, good rising, SRC family. Shout out to our over 500 mail chip viewers, and now to our over 1,000 viewers on our YouTube channel. We just want you to know that we appreciate each and every one of you. I am Anala D, your host, and we are back to unpack some powerful knowledge, topped with understanding. And we just can't wait to get into this message today. We remain so excited to talk about the book of Numbers, the book of Numbers and what it all means. But before we get started this morning, I want to do this. Before we get started, we're going to have our contributors briefly introduce themselves. And then if you, our guests, feel led, please unmute yourself. I will call on you. And you, of course, can also tell us what you want to get out of the book of Numbers, or just make a brief statement if you like. So right now, we're going to start with Dr. Griffo, who will introduce himself briefly.
Good morning, SRC team and viewers. My name is Kedar Griffo. I am an author of 8 books, working on 9 books. I do lectures periodically around the United States, and I'm happy to be here and to unpack the book of Numbers. If you guys would like to contact me, you can contact me at Zoser Research Society @gmail.com. That's Zoser, ZOSER, Research Society, all one word, @gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Griffo. So now let's move over to Lavelle Rosser, who is going to introduce himself. And as soon as your mute is on, Lavelle.
Okay, sorry about that. Good morning. This is Brother Lavelle Rouser, and I'm with the Vibration Society, and I'm a numerologist and Kabbalist in the study of numbers. And I've been doing this for more than 40 years now, and I'm happy and grateful to be here among a collective of other great people who want to share and contribute a great wealth of knowledge for the minds of people.
Thank you very much, Lavelle. So now let's move to Mark Thomas.
Hello, good morning to everybody. Yeah, like Lavelle, I'm very grateful to be here with all these talented people and to open up a conversation on what the Bible means to all of us. My part in SRC is, as you know, as moderator, and I contribute in other ways like editing videos and things like that. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark Thomas. And now let's go to Pastor Archie Sanders.
Good morning, everyone. SRC team. It's good to be here. I'm glad to be a part of a great team that goes in and unravel the Bible and gives people the understanding of more than the basics. I as a pastor, I've always preached the basic teachings of the Bible, but they're always down within me. There was something that was telling me there's more to it, and I found our SRC, and I'm glad to contribute to SRC with these great people here. They gave me a lot of understanding, and we're going to open up numbers a little more and hope that you enjoy and join in with us unraveling these symbols.
All right. Thank you, Pastor Archie. So now let's have Miss Tamisha Burgess introduce herself. Yeah.
You know what? I'm a little sensitive today. How come the ladies come last? What's going on here? Right?
I can see her thinking about that.
It's the Leo Gateway portal is open today. So I'm very excited. I don't know if you guys are feeling this energy, but I am. I've been feeling it coming on in. But I'm Tamisha Burgess. I am a tech founder, global goodwill humanitarian, new age thought leader. I'm also the creator of Fireside Chats for Global Women, because turning pain into power is sexy. I've developed very taboo methodologies and unorthodox philosophies that help to unleash and activate suppressed superpower for inner well-being. I work globally with women and girls to tap into unleashing and activating their suppressed superpower. It's funny that people often ask, well, how is turning pain into power sexy? And my response now is, well, you have to join my masterclass to find out, which will be available to the public very, very soon. So I'm really excited about that. It's called Activate Masterclass. To find out more, you can visit online at patreon.com/The Fireside. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/IN/Tamisha Burgess. And you can email me at TamishaBurgess@gmail.com. I'm excited to be here with all of you. This is a new age, and we are unpacking new age wisdom. And I'm glad to be doing it here with SRC.
Thank you very much, Tamisha Burgess, for that introduction. Now, I know we have a guest on. If you want to say anything, please feel free to unmute and say or ask whatever question you want to ask. So I give you a few seconds to think about that. And if not, what we're going to do now is move right into our program, into our broadcast. This is the third episode in this series, the Book of Numbers. What does it all mean? And as always, I suggest you do this right now. And that is to send a link to your friends and family and tell them that they need to jump on this broadcast right now, because it's going to be so good. And as always, SRC encourages you to participate. Raise your hand, ask questions, or just make comments. So now with that, let's get to work. But before I do, I just want to make sure that our visitors don't have anything that they want to contribute or say today. If so, please unmute yourself and ask or say whatever you need to say. Okay? But before we get started, what we're going to do is we're going to have Mark Thomas, who is going to brief us on what we learned during the last episode. Mark Thomas.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to reassure Tamisha that don't forget, if you're last now, you're going to be first later.
Don't make me shout over here.
It is written.
Yeah. It is written. Ashe, thank you for that.
All
I
right.
like that.
In last week's broadcast was enlightening in so many ways, and I can't hope to summarize it all now, but I wanted to highlight one thread of knowledge that really stuck with me last week. Was early in the show, Anala referenced a verse in the book of Exodus where she talked about chapter 35, verse 35. And she summed it up by saying that each of us, when we enter the world, are already prepared with the skills and talent needed to accomplish and create. And that we each have our own particular and special way in this regard. And then Brother Lavelle later said that we all are here to master the world. And Pastor Archie and Dr. Griffo explained in detail how this is possible. And then finally, at the end of the show, Tamisha pointed out in answer to a question that mastering the world means, in essence, that you master yourself and that this is a personal and distinct journey of your own. So we have three things as we pull on this thread. We have ourselves, we have the world, and God. SRC knows that all of these things are the same thing. This is how we embody or give human form to God's creativity. So numerology and astrology and other esoteric teachings help us by revealing how unique each of us are. Even modern day science supports these ideas. I mean, you can ask about things that are going on today in science, and they're coming up with things that actually support what we're saying here at SRC. If you have questions on that, please ask. So I wanted to bring this up in part just to point out that these threads run through every presentation. So if you suddenly have a light bulb moment during the show, please raise your hand and share with everybody. So speaking of light bulbs, Anala, I'm sure there's a few that's going to be turned on today in today's episode. So why don't you start us?
All right. Thank you so much for that. Now, we've talked a lot about names and the fact that a name projects vibrational power. Today, we're going to move into the chapters 5 through 11, but please understand that these stories presented in the entire book of Numbers is predicated or grounded around the names of those who were chosen as leaders, as well as how people were being organized according to the number of their name. The book of Numbers also demonstrates to me the way in which people can be controlled when they do not know or understand the power that they possess within themselves. And as we continue to unpack the book of Numbers, I want you to remember this term right here. I want you to remember the definition of this term. The term name is defined as a word or a combination of words by which a person, place, or thing, a body or class, or any object of thought is designated, called, or known. It is a mere designation as distinguished from fact. That's interesting, isn't it? It is a designation, a mere designation as distinguished from fact. Furthermore, it means the verbal or other symbolic representation of a thing, event, property, relation, or concept. In other words, the word name means the nature of your thoughts and feelings about yourself. So chapter 5 and most of the chapters that are in the book of Numbers start with this language right here. It says, and the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, starts with that. Right away, this statement calls most people to believe, especially in organized religion, that there was one leader that the universal creator spoke to, and everybody else had to listen. It also made us think that we needed other human beings to guide us in our earth's journey, meaning that we needed somebody to tell us what we needed to do. So with saying that, I want Pastor Archie to kick us off on what's going on in any of these chapters. Name that chapter, that verse, and tell us what organized religion, because Pastor Archie has been in teaching preaching for over 30 years and understands what organized religion has been teaching. So I want him to tell us what organized religion wanted to put in us, and then tell us what we need to know today.
Okay, thank you, Anala. The book of Numbers is really interesting to me. There's a lot in there to unravel, but as I read through the 5th through the 11th chapter, it seems to be setting a stage. If I must say, it's setting a stage, as you said. It begins off saying that the Lord spoke to Moses. The Lord gave these instructions to Moses, and he's the only one that should be able that you could go to get to God. And it gave him all the instructions of how to set up the tabernacle or how people should give. Even if you look in there, and I'm not talking about the tithes, as you get a little further on down in there, you'll see where each tribe had to give a certain amount of silver and incense and animals they sacrificed. So I must say that we are all born with a cosmic encyclopedia, as to speak, within us, but we don't know that. We don't know that. We jump out there and we begin to follow those because they say, or even me, I picked it up years ago that the Lord is really anointing me, but I began to show people that within you, you have powers also. And as we go through the 5th chapter, it talked about the God, the Lord spoke to Moses, and it talked about even your relationships. And what's really interesting here, if you look in the 5th chapter, Numbers and the 11th verse, I want to read this here because I was curious of something here. And it said, and the Lord said to Moses, give the following instructions to the people of Israel. Suppose a man's wife goes astray and she is unfaithful to her husband and has sex with another man, but neither her husband nor anyone else knows about it. Now, it goes on to say some stuff about her being defiled, but I don't see anywhere where it spoke of a man messing up or having sex with another. I don't see that, and I understand that it was written by men. The Bible was written by men. So, as I said, a stage was set. So not only was a stage set for you to follow those who say that they are led by ultimate power from above, but also the stage was set for woman to follow man. Now I know that's gonna start some stuff.
You better preach. You better preach.
I know it is, because it was set up by patriarchal type men. But before that time, before Christianity, we worked on a matriarchal type system where women were powerful. And boy, I might have to stop because I'm getting ready to go somewhere else. But look, this whole book, it talked about from the 5th to the 11th chapter of Numbers. It set the stage for giving to the priests for what women couldn't do. And it's awesome, because I know we're going to get some responses to that, because it did show what the woman could do. The woman would get in trouble, but I don't see where the man got in trouble.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It's a stage that was set.
Oh, come on now. I like that. A stage that was set. That's absolutely right. I see that Lavelle Rosser has his mute off, so obviously he wants to contribute to that conversation.
Oh, no, I was listening, but yeah, I agree with Pastor Archie pertaining to that. There's definitely was a matriarchal prior to the patriarchal way of life that we all lived side by side in. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So now I heard Tamisha say, "Preach it." So let's hear what you have to say about that, because see, You talked about this morning. Say, I don't understand why the women have to go last, but it seems that we go first when it comes to throwing out blame, doesn't it?
Ooh. You know, there's so many, you know, parallels to these stories that have evolved over time. Pastor Uncle Archie, you just hit the nail on the head. I myself have personally never read through Numbers myself. I always thought it was just about numbers, but I love how you highlighted that the stage was set, and you know how this has been the emphasis in which we have built our lives as men and as women. And so not only have women been confused about our power, but men have been confused about their power, because the idea has been to shun this idea of the feminine that exists in both men and women, right? So shun this idea of the feminine in both men and women. And so you have men shunning the feminine within themselves, thus shunning the girls, and women shunning our feminine power as well, and shunning the feminine whenever we see it show up in other women as well. So you have these dualities and these combating energies. Number one, combat within ourselves, and that pouring out into our outside world. And so it really holds a mirror up for all of us to look at ourselves to see where we've fallen short of each other, where we've fallen short with truly knowing and operating within.
We seem to be losing to Misha, but we want to finish this up. We're going to come back in just a moment. We got to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to understand and talk to, let Tamisha finish her thoughts, but also get Dr. Griffo to tell us about some of these things that happen to people if you don't do all the things that they're telling, like the swelling of the thigh and all that. What does that really mean? So just give us a chance to come right on. We're going to go to a short break and we'll be back in just a second. All right. Thank you so much for joining us in that commercial break for just a second. Dr. Griffo, talk to us about, now they talk about these women, all these things going to happen. If the woman is if they found to be guilty or all this stuff, then if there's going to be, their thighs going to be swelled up and something's going to happen to their stomach here. Talk to us about that. What does that all mean? I mean, that I'm sure would scare the living daylights out of most people.
Yes, if you take the Bible literally, then yes, you should be afraid. But fortunately for us, we know that that's not a literal statement right there. What you're dealing with is the thoughts. If your thoughts are pure, it's a male, it's masculine. If your thoughts are impure, it's feminine. So this is how religion came up with the concept of sin and sinister. The word sinister means on the left, right? So Adam being on the right, Eve would be on the left, sinister, sin. So then any thoughts that's coming up that's trying to approach the tabernacle where God is, if it's coming from down here in the lower nature and it's rising up and they crucified, they have to stop it at the gate in order to keep that thought from overtaking and making the man or the right side of the brain have impure thoughts. This is why Eve gave Adam the apple, and then he did eat. Then they knew they were naked. You follow? So it's the same concept of the woman first coming with the sin and then passing it on to the right side of the brain to the man. And then if he partakes, then he is guilty of sinning against God. Whereas the woman is never really condemned to a degree, but the man is, because he's supposed to be the representative of God on earth, or the Khalifa, the vice regent, the successor. So when you talk about the woman having impure thoughts and committing adultery against her husband, it's the thoughts that each individual, each one of us have, that will challenge and make us want to not do what's righteous according to our essence.
Now, in this case here, when you talk about those thoughts, and they refer or they personify those thoughts as being a female, are those thoughts the conscious thoughts, or are they thoughts through the subconscious?
They're thoughts through the conscious. They're thoughts through the conscious. And like if you read, I think in chapter 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you go to verse 15, it talks about, if he takes to his wife, to the priest, and she must give an offering. And it talks about giving an eighth of a tenth of a ephah or ephah. Well, the ephah is nothing but a bushel. But when you take the measurements of that, it comes to 1,260. Now, for those who don't recall from our Revelation series, 1,260 represents 3.5 times. 3.5 times is where the Kundalini is called at the base of our spines, and once it unfurls, it goes all the way up to the pineal pituitary. These are your two witnesses, right? And this is where, if you recall, the Bible talks about two witnesses, but in this particular instance, where the Revelation gets it from, you notice that she has to bring a witness, or the man has to bring a witness against the woman. Well, it's only two people that could witness. There's the left side and the right side. But it's talking about how this is uncalling and going all the way up unto that thought process coming from the sacral, the Lord nature, and rising up into the higher nature. And it has to, instead of being crucified, which is not being talked about at this point, they said that it has to be stopped before it enters the tabernacle. So it's the same concept. The Old Testament writers were a little different than the New Testament writers, although they were saying the same thing.
Got you. So in other words, what this is that conscious thought trying to rise up to the higher, and we have to manage those thoughts and not allow them to get there, especially if it's a thought, something that you don't want. And so what we're seeing here in the book of Numbers, it goes right back to what we were talking about in Revelation and what we talked about, Pastor Archie, in Imagination series. It goes all the way back to what you are thinking and what you are imagining. There is no difference in the model. The model hasn't changed, and I think Dr. Griffo said once before, when you actually understand the Bible, then you will see, and number one, see yourself in the Bible, then it's pretty simple. It's not that complicated, because most of it is all about your thoughts. Even in the book of Numbers, it's about your thoughts and your name. And I want to step back for just a second, because I want to really home this name thing in here, because I remember this child. They named their child Creature, 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 and he was a nice looking young man, but this young man really wore that name well. And Brother Lavelle talked about before, if your name does not match you, or if you're finding yourself resonating with that name that you were given, like me, I didn't like my name. I could never resonate with my name. I changed my name for that reason. Maybe you might want to think about changing your name, especially when you understand what your name really means, because it seems to me that name that you are given, even though you have a different destination, that name causes you to go somewhere else. Lavelle, maybe you could also speak on that a little bit, because Dr. Griffo just talked about, it's all about the thoughts. And even though a person may not even understand what their name means, some kind of way, it seems like the vibrational part of our name propels us to go in that direction anyway? Would you speak on that for a second?
Yes. The every name that we have possesses us, and the vibrations which possesses us affects our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, the kind of people that we come into contact with life, the lessons we are here to learn in life. Those are all connected with our name. Now, some people very early in their life grow out of that name very quickly, okay? Some people they have a name, but they're giving another name, like a family name or a nickname. And that nickname or family name may not resonate with them all that well. And so when they become an adult, they no longer want to be called that, even though the family continues with that, okay? And so the power of the names are formed and made up of every letter that has a corresponding number, and the corresponding number has a corresponding planetary energy, and the corresponding planetary energy has rule over the zodiac or with the zodiac. And so this is how names come into play. This is why we are at SRC, so we can have this knowledge, so that we can ascertain greater who we are, why we're here. Because in the construct of names, there are sets of principles that we are supposed to abide by, because that is what we agreed to before we arrived here as physical beings living in a spiritual reality.
Thank you so much. So, there is a verse out there that says, all things work together for the good of those who love God. And also says that nothing, we have to say that, nothing is just by chance. Everything that happens, it happens for a reason. So is it that the names that we are given by our parents, is that something that is supposed to be, if we had that name, is that the name we're supposed to have? Or if they don't know what we are learning about today, is it possible they have just given us the wrong name because they didn't understand how they were supposed to understand when we were, the date that we came into this earth? Because most people already know what name they're going to name their child even before it's born. Like some people name their children Mercedes and they look like Volkswagens, and on and on and on. So, that's not, I'm just saying, I'm just saying that people name their children before they get here. They name their children before they even see them. So is that something that should be happening? Should it be happening that way? Or should we take the time when we know we're going to bring this precious in the world and wait until that precious come in the world and then understand what that name and birthday means and then name them?
Well, in our traditions, and many traditions of many cultures and indigenous peoples from all around the world, the normality was to have a priest or priestess who would counsel you once that child is here. Oftentimes you go through what is called a naming ceremony. 7 years for one sex, I think it's 8 or 9 years for another sex. So there was always particulars, there was always a system that was set in place so that every soul who arrived here was given the proper name so that it can be successful in life. In the Jewish tradition, they take this very seriously. And then at the age of 13, the Jewish male goes through what they call a bar mitzvah, okay? And that continues on with the tradition that has already been set as a precedence. And if you wonder why so many, a particular group of people may appear to be so successful in life, a lot of it has to do with their understanding of name, vibration. What are you here to do? Okay, a lot of times people have names which are in direct opposition to the day that they were born. And I see it a lot. Naming a child is not something that's a plaything.
I love that. I love that, Brother Lavelle. I mean, and I'm with this name thing because that is so important. As we talked about, Pastor Archie, you said the book of Numbers it set the stage. It set the stage for everything that's going on right now. It set the stage so we wouldn't even understand how important it is to name our children. Not, you wouldn't even think about having a naming ceremony and understanding when they came in earth and what they were supposed to do and then name them. That to me was the stage that was set way before. And now I'm so glad that we are unraveling this stuff. So parents out there, if you're thinking about having a child or you're going to bring one in this world, don't try to figure out what their name is before they get here. You want to make sure that you let it get here and then go and research what that name is supposed to be. Tamisha, I see you have your hand up there.
You know, I'm thinking about celebrities. When they change their name, you find out a lot of the times that really huge, you know, celebrities who are doing very well, very successful, their names are not, you know, Mike, whatever it is, or, you know, so they change their names once they get into certain professions, once they get into, you know, the public eye and they're public figures. And so I'm thinking that this has to do with whoever established what it looks like when you know, come into the public eye, whoever established that, they knew what they were doing, you know, because the first thing that celebrities do, singers, dancers, they change their names. And you find out that their name, you know, like Kelly Rowland, I'm just thinking from Destiny's Child, her name is not Kelly Rowland, it's something else. I don't even remember what it is, it's something else. And how this has emphasis on why they're so successful. So is there any more insight about that?
Oh yes, definitely. I mean, that's all across the board because record companies, the moguls in the entertainment business, film industry, they have their people who are in positions who know this, and they will consult with the artist, okay, or an athlete. This is all done by exactness, okay? I used to have a saying when I first started doing numerology that all life is mathematics, and that's true. And so when we understand the mathematics and the vibrations and the power of the names, then we are on our way to success. You may have the gifts and the talents and the ability, but you may not have the power to be in the limelight, so to say, to be successful. In order to live in this world and be successful on a large scale, you must have some power. And I'll just briefly say, and the powers have to deal with the numbers 4, 8, 9, and 22. And that's why I said earlier last time that, you know, we have to learn how to use whatever powers and gifts, abilities, know-hows that we have been given. Many people sit on their abilities and powers and never even touch upon the fact that they have this power. A lot of it has to do with confidence, but when you become more aware of who you are through the power of your name, then you can do anything.
I love that. I love
you
that.
Better talk. You better
I love
say
that. I love that, Brother Lavelle. Now, Archie, I see that you have your mute off. What do you want to contribute to this? And then we'll go right to Dr. Griffo.
Yeah, well, right. Briefly, I'm sitting here looking at this whole ideal of the stage being set. When something is embedded into your psyche, it's hard to get away from that, especially if you were taught that from a baby,
Right.
even in your mother's stomach, how you're going to live and what you can do and what you can't do when you're taught to hate your own self and taught to worship a God that is allowing people to torture you and kill your family right in front of you. How in the what? How? It's impossible for you to get a hold to, like Brother Lavelle was saying, get a hold to who you really are. You know, those African queens and kings, that line that you came from, that was cut off from you, and you would put as far away from that as you could get from it, so that you would not have any idea of who you are and where you came from. I'm telling y'all, and I don't know if I told y'all this story. I traveled a lot overseas, and I was coming back. I can't remember if it was from Europe. I was coming from somewhere in Europe, but I know I was at the train station, walking through the train station, and these two gentlemen come up to me, and it was so embarrassing. They fell on the floor and started worshiping me and saying, "Oh, you're the king from someplace in Africa." And I'm saying, "No, it's not." I said, "That's not me." And they said, "Man, we swear you look exactly like this king in this place they were from." And I just say that to say this here: we don't really know our lineage. We don't know where we actually came from. The names, as Brother Lavelle is saying, they mean a lot. But see, most of us have got away from any name that means anything. We just take a name and give it to our child and say, go ahead on, and this is your name. But we have to be very careful, because this is why I love contributing to SRC. We help you begin to open up that search. I don't care who you are, what color you are, begin to search what has been given to us. Be careful what's given to you.
I love that. I love that. I love that, Pastor Archie. Be careful what's given to you, and began to search. And see, when you talk about the person who came up and wanted to worship you, they saw you. They saw the essence of the you. But the name that we are given, we get, like you said, we get so far from the essence that what we really are, because of we've been living and walking in the vibration of the names that are given us. Dr. Griffo, I know you have some powerful information to share with us right now.
I don't know about that, what everybody's powerful, but I'm going to take it back to Africa, where most of the ancient pharaohs, if not all of them, had at least 5 to 9 different names. So as you transition through your lifetime, you're going to change those names and those vibrations, because it affects and it makes you become who you're supposed to be. Even if you go back to the Bible, you have Jesus being called Emmanuel. You know what I mean? He had multiple names. A lot of people were given multiple names. Solomon was also called Jedediah. You know what I mean? So they understand the power of a name. Even the Bible says a good name is better than gold. You know, now some people will interpret that to say that they're saying, you know, having a good reputation, which is true, but you could also look at it in the other fashion of knowing that you were supposed to have certain attributes in order to take on a name. This is why most Africans would wait till after the child was born. Hence, most West Africans who were named Kwame, which means born on a Tuesday or either born on a Sunday. You couldn't be named that until after you got here. So every name was important, and it gave an indication of the attributes of who you were and who you were striving to be. So then if you wasn't making it up to that level, you would also, you know, change your name at certain points, as Brother Lavelle was talking about, at age 13, when the men and the women get their bat and their bar mitzvah. But even going back even further to the West Africans, and from the tribe I'm from in West Africa, they had what they call the Soro and the Poto and the Sandi. These are 2 coming of age schools for West Africans in what's now called Sierra Leone from the Mende tribe. So we had a naming and a coming of age ceremony before we became converted to the religions of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. So wow. This goes way back for us and understanding the beauty and the knowledge of having a name. I myself have went through various name changes depending on what school of thought I was in and where my mindset was at. So while you might know me by a government name of Griffo, the name I have I have a few other titles that I go by depending on, you know, who I'm talking to and how they know me and from what school that they know me from. So, yes.
I love that. I love that, Dr. Griffo. We're going to come back in just a second. We got to take this short commercial break. But when we come back, I want us to get down into, you know, talking about these names, but talking also about these scriptures here, these verses 5 through 11. I want you guys to be prepared. We're going to talk about what's some of these things in these verses. What are they telling us? What are they trying to tell the people? Because at the end of the day, we realize it's about who you are and the power you know you possess. So we'll be right back after this short commercial break.
Want to know what it's like behind the walls of a women's prison? Get Anala D's latest release, Screaming from the Inside, Incarcerated Women and the Journey to Awakening. Want to study Anala D's roadmap for getting released in 2 years after being sentenced to 20 years served to the door? Obtain her book, How to Prepare a Parole Package and Trigger Your Release from Prison today.
Thank you for taking that short commercial break with us. Now, some would say, and you were talking, Dr. Griffo, and I want to hand this back to you. Some would say that, wait a minute, you guys should be talking about, and they kept the Passover, you know, looking at chapter 9 in Numbers and in verse 5, and they kept the Passover on the 14th day of the first month, even in the wilderness and all this stuff. They would think that we should be talking about those things. But in the book of Numbers, what is the essence of the book of Numbers? What are they really talking about? We can go through all that stuff, but we're not going to do it here on SRC. We're going to give you the short story about what's really happening. Dr. Griffo, finish your thought on what you were saying, and then I just think about, as you are breaking this down, looking at the book of Numbers. At the end of the day, what's happening here?
I'll just go right into what you were just saying. Let's just deal with the Passover. This is given, again, you said the 14th month and a certain day. That is in the Hebrew calendar, the month of Nisan or Nissan. You know, we've seen the car symbol, the Nissan symbol, which is nothing but a globe. And it's showing the line of the equator running right through the middle, which is showing the Aries, beginning of Aries, and then the end in Sagittarius, not Sagittarius, in Libra, where you're going into the fall. So notice that when they were supposed to go and practice the Passover, it was bringing them into the spring. Past Nisan is spring. And then later on, you know, he told them to eat what? The unleavened bread. The unleavened bread is going to be harvested in the fall time. So you're still getting a astronomical clock when you're dealing with this particular aspect. And looking at that Nisan symbol, it shows you the vernal equinox as well as the autumnal equinox. So they hid that in there. Those Japanese people knew exactly what they was doing when they created that emblem for Nisan. Now, what we should be getting from the book of Numbers up to where we are is, again, just understand that this is dealing with your body. If we go to chapter 7 of Numbers, verse 88, it talks about them bringing the sacrifices to the priest, and it gives them the fellowship offering to 24 oxen, 60 rams, 60 male goats, and 60 lambs. 6, 6, 6. We know what that number is. We've talked about this ad nauseum on this show. And I'm glad, I guess we got to continue to talk about it, but we understand that is dealing with the 18-inch, for the average man, 18-inch spinal column, which we must transfer that energy from the lower chakra up to the higher chakra. And then as you continue to read on in chapter 10 and 11, it starts talking about manna. So the children of Israel were upset because God gave them manna to eat as opposed to giving them meat. And so they complained, and God then said, okay, well then I'm going to take away the manna and I'm just going to give you meat to eat for the next month. And then he got mad, and then he killed a lot of them, according to the Bible story. Killed his own people that he was supposed to be saving from the Israelites, but he kills them later on because he got mad because they didn't want what he wanted to give. They wanted what they wanted to have. Now, manna is described as a sweet honey consistency like cracker type thing. Now, when you break it down, though, you're talking about brain sugar. Because in your brain, you have something called galactose. It's a brain sugar, galactose. Anytime you see the word toast, more than likely, it's a type of sugar, okay? So galactose, what galaxy are we in? The Milky Way, milk and honey, astrological, okay? This is what they're giving you in addition to the fact that they're telling you about your body. So like I said, when you take the opportunity and Google it later on, galactose, galactose. This is the milk and the honey that's secreted by the pineal gland and the pituitary gland. So what they do is they differentiate certain hormones that come out. One gives us serotonin and one gives us melatonin. One helps us sleep. One helps regulate our motor skills. So this is all of this is talking about once you understand and you start to look at the words. And again, this is why you had that symbol where they're giving you the 180 degree or the pan from one side to the next. Okay, you're going from one season, going from the spring, and 6 months later to the fall, and then the fall is where they do the wine. This is why the Bible always speaks about wine. This is why the Bible always speaks about eating wheat, because the wine and the wheat, the grapes and the wheat are both harvested in the same season, and that's in the fall. So it's telling you it's getting ready to go into the winter equinox, the winter solstice, and then come back up in Passover. Passover is when the sun passes from the winter to the springtime, and in the springtime is when everything is renewed. So all of your thoughts should be renewed. This is why we do spring cleaning. We have to clean this here as well. So it's just a play on those particular things. In short, I don't want to take up more time. I'll let everybody else contribute.
But Dr. Griffo, thank you so much for that, providing that insight, because these, when you think about the book of Numbers or any books in the Bible, these are stories that have led people away from who they are. But it did tell the truth about this, that our people suffer because of a lack of knowledge.
Absolutely.
And we suffer when we don't understand what we're talking about and what we're giving out here at SRC. I know I've suffered because I didn't realize who I am now, but I'm no longer doing that because now I realize who I am clearly. So what I want to do, go Dr. Griffo.
Just wanted to throw one other little thing in there. Again, as you read these chapters 5 through 11, at one point you're going to see where the Israelites were all bringing 12 of something to sacrifice to the priest. So now when you look at that 12, it's 12 tribes, and each one of them bringing 12 something. So 12 times 12 is what? 144. Okay, that's that number again. And then we know that 144 deals with the petals of the chakras that are associated with each chakra. So the bottom chakra is a 4, the next chakra is a 6, then a 10, then a 12, then a 64, until it all adds up to 144 petals times the crown chakra, which is 144,000. So again, they put the numbers in there very, very symbolically, but you have to be able to to put the puzzle together. And at SRC, that's what we're going to do for you, is to give you the clues so then you will be able to unpack it and see that it's just telling you the same story over and over again, just with different names. And then the names all have symbolic meanings as well. So I just wanted to put that back in there. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Thank you so much for that. You know, I listened to Reverend Ike, who a long time ago people talked about him real bad, but Reverend Ike was sharing the same kind of thing that we're talking about today. But everybody thought he was a quack and all this type of stuff. He was just trying to get people to get knowledge. That's all he was doing. And I remember people laughed about him, and there are probably some people doing the same thing. But you know, we can't stop. We can't stop doing what we do because we know too much now. We want to share that with you because where we were, we hopefully you won't have to go there if you get this knowledge. So what we want to do now, because we are almost at that time, is we're going to go around and we're going to get everyone's last thoughts about what we've been talking about today between the chapters 5 through 11, or if whatever else you want to share. And we're going to start that off with Pastor Archie.
Okay, let me unmute myself. I tell you, I definitely enjoyed the information that I'm getting about this book of Numbers. But what I want to leave with people, I want you to think about as you sit here and listen to us talk about the book of Numbers and what some of the numbers mean and how the stage is set. You must understand that the book of knowledge that belonged to the Egyptians, that belonged to our people, were taken before we were ever born. And those people of interest, I would say the ancient priests, they took and they made it and tried to imitate what we were doing, because we lived on we have had powerful institutions and colleges that taught us the right way of life, but it was taken from us and destroyed and changed. That is why we're here at SRC trying to get you to understand, go beyond the basics that were given to you in the Bible. I know when you say Bible and God and Lord and all that, that messes you up because now you think you're going to hell, but you need to check that out. We want you to make sure that you search this Bible and get some more references and come to understand that there are a lot of things happen to make you think the way that you're thinking now. So you're going to have to change your way of thinking.
Thank you so much for that, Pastor Archie. We're going to go now to Tamisha Burgess, who's going to give us that summary, those last thoughts.
What? I'm not last this time. I was kidding. You know, I'm gonna just piggyback off of what you said, my dear mother, high priestess, goddess, about Reverend Ike. Since you mentioned him some time ago, he showed up on my YouTube suggestions, and I've been watching him ever since. And I'm going to just end with something I heard him say that I thought was so profound. And he said, a lot of us know a little bit of something about farming or gardening, and pay attention to what the gardener or the farmer would do. They always put a scarecrow around anything that is valuable. So pay attention to what, you know, for me, is to pay attention to what we are being taught to fear and start digging there. Because whenever there's value, whenever there's good, whenever there's power, that is where you're gonna find it wrapped in something that you were taught to fear and run away from, demonize, to vilify. So let's start digging where we've been taught to fear, which is essentially fearing ourselves and fearing our own power.
I love that. I've heard that sermon that he did, and that was so powerful. And the reason why I remember it so well, because I remember when my grandmother, and Pastor Archie will remember this, our grandmother, when she put something in that garden real good, she always put that scarecrow out there to keep the birds and everything from eating it. So you're absolutely right about that. When there is something good, they try to bring fear so that you won't learn about that thing. Let's go to Mark Thomas right now, who's going to give us a little bit of what he want to leave you with today, briefly.
Yeah, wow, I learned a lot today from you guys. Really, really good show. I really appreciated Archie's story on the two men in the train station. That really kind of brought it home to me about what happens when traditions are broken, and when, for instance, the name ceremonies that Brother Lavelle and Dr. Griffo were talking about. That really struck me as well. So really, really good show. I really appreciate everybody's input. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark Thomas. And let's go to Lavelle Rosser now. And he's going to talk about what he want to leave you with and anything else you want to add briefly.
Okay, and I like to continue to ride on what Pastor Archie said, pertaining to we got to change the way that we think. This year of 2021, in numerology, when we add those digits, 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 1, it equals the number 5. Okay, it's 5 digits on each of your hands, one on the left, one on the right. There's a reason for that. I'll get to that later. But 5 deals with thought, 5 deals with mind, 5 is the vibration which connects us, each of us, mentally, okay, whether we know this or not. And 5 is the vibration which brings about change. Change, 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 and more change. A lot is being thrown at us right now, especially pertaining to COVID, and there's a lot of fear that's behind that. But it is the knowledge which you have, okay, in your mind, producing in your thoughts, which will override all of that. So change the way of poor thinking, change it to a greater and much, much higher vibration of thought. And that's what I'd like to leave everyone with.
Thank you for that, Brother Lavelle. Now let's go to Dr. Griffo. What's those last thoughts you want to leave with our audience today?
Again, just mind your thoughts. That's one of the most important things that you could do is mind your thoughts. This whole demonization of women has people literally taking this and demonizing women when it was really about your thoughts, and they're trying to demonize your lower vibrational thoughts or your outer thoughts as opposed to your inner thoughts. So it's just about being constantly on guard, having your cherubims, your swords, your flaming swords to kill any type of thought that would injure your temple or disrupt your temple. You don't want to have any money changers in your temple. You don't want to have any people with bad intentions in your temple or any bad thoughts. So just continue to mind your mind for the jewels of.
Thank you so much, Dr. Griffo. And we all know that our temple is our bodies and all this. And Dr. Griffo was letting us know what we need to be minding here. And as Pastor Archie said, everything that we've been reading was a stage that was set up for us so that we can move away from what we should have been knowing. So with that being said, we have enjoyed you guys today. I'm going to pass it now to our moderator, Mark Thomas, who is going to take us out.
Okay, thank you, Nola. All of us here at SRC, we want to thank the audience for sitting in on today's presentation. Our next broadcast is going to be on August 15th at 10 o'clock Eastern as usual next week. So please join us and to continue revealing the book of Numbers. We really appreciate everyone's patronage and encourage you to email your questions or comments at shiftingreligiousconcepts@gmail.com. And if anyone is interested in advertising, use that same email to contact us. So if you're not subscribed, please go to shiftingreligiousconcepts.com/registration and join us. So that does it for today's broadcast. Once again, watch your email for our Zoom link inviting you to attend our next recording on the 15th of August. So in the meantime, we wish you all peace, health, wisdom, and love, of course.